Daily Zencast. Hosted by the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's talk Trump.
Greetings, fellow Trumptopians. I know I'm at an odd hour, 7 p.m. on a Sunday, for Good Morning Trumptopia, but this concept just hit me all at once after contemplating the idea deeply for several days. We find ourselves in the midst of this, I think, second longest partial government shutdown. It's not a full government shutdown. Bless their hearts, they're still taking paychecks up there in Congress and Capitol Hill and the White House. In fact, most of them are giving themselves really fat pay raises. But that's besides the point. Nothing to see here. Sweep, sweep, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Under the rug, move along, move along. In the midst of this shutdown, there's a lot of people dismissing it as fake news that it's even really a shutdown, which tragically that's sort of true because it isn't really that much of a shutdown, but there are negative impacts. But that's not what I wanted to talk about. I've been thinking about the shutdown and asking, what is it that no one's really asking about this shutdown? We all know that it's different. We all know who started it. We all know who's blaming the other side for it. And we all know that all normal, typical, standard, apropos political solutions that would normally have achieved a denouement, a resolution, and then a return to almost normal order would have been achieved by now. Because most people in the game of politics would have had concrete goals with concrete exit strategies and trade-off gambits, and they would have been about tangible things. Well, this is about a wall, isn't it? This is about building a wall. Now, we can get lost down the rabbit hole of arguing about the wall and whether or not it's effective. Don't get me wrong, but here's what I think about the wall. Like Trump, it is both true and not true at the same time. Trump is like a human Schrodinger's cat. This is just coming to me now, folks. Maybe someone already has said this. Maybe I'm subconsciously borrowing it. I don't think I've heard anyone say this, though. Trump is like a human Schrodinger's cat. He exists in a place of kind of truth, but also totally fake at the same time. He's both dead and alive. So I don't want to go down that rabbit hole about the wall, good idea, bad idea, does it work, does it not work? That's a very Schrodinger's cat. It's a bit of both. You can't solve any of the problems by demanding that the answer is an absolutist one or the other, because it's always a bit of both. And, by the way, my ultimate trump to Trump's wall argument is that if you only build one wall, if you imagine America is a room, right? There's the southern border, that's one wall, that's the southern wall. Then there's the northern border, which, by the way, as I like to remind folks as often as possible, lots of people sneak in through that border every day. There are some diligent reporters out there at some alternative outlets like Vice, and NPR, that edgy alternative fucking news outlet, reporting on this simple fact and the human stories involved. People try to get into other countries where they see opportunity all the time. The biggest flaw with the southern border wall strategy, there's three really, but at the core of the three is that he only is demanding one wall, and there are 4 walls to a room. So shutting the government down to demand $5 billion to build a wall along one of the three sides of the country's exposed area is like building a real house, but not putting a roof on it and insisting that it's a real house. Like no roof at all. No attempt at roofing. Just 4 walls and a door. You see the problem, right? But I digress. That's not my point. I don't think he even gives 2 flying fucks about the wall. I don't think he really does. Look at him. He sounds about the wall the way he sounds about Trump steak, Trump wine, Trump University. 3 really successful businesses with the Trump name on it. He sounds like he's reading from a script, is what I mean to say. Have you seen the Trump steak commercials? Does that look like the face of a man who's actually eaten a lifetime's worth of Trump steak? No. Looks like a man who decided, oh, hey, I'll put my name on this, and I don't care about it, and they're going to give me money. I don't think he actually wants the wall. What makes me think that? I'm sitting here wondering, what is this shutdown going to get to? How is he going to turn it around? He has dug his heels in, and he's the great deal maker, right? He's the great delusional deal maker. No matter how many foreclosures and bankruptcies and stalled out businesses where he just jilts the providers and walks away from deals and everybody loses money and he just pretends nothing happened. This man is digging in and doubling down and tripling down and quadrupling down on his demand for $5.6 billion. And what's fascinating is that it's really specific, and he's been, during the last year and a half, he's been offered more for border security. It just didn't include language that said wall, right? And he's been offered equivalent, the same amount in other packages. It's border security, but just don't call it a wall, man. Don't build a new big stupid cluster of architectural eyesore. There's another flaw here. Never mind the fact that, it's already been shown. Sarah, what's her name, Sanders, got crucified, ironically, on Fox News. Did you guys see this? I wish I'd gotten some audio clip of this. I'm going to see if I can get this next week. But, because I'm about to slam into some day job busyness, and I'm not going to be able to pull that kind of time aside. But I digress. I caught a little bit of this earlier today. She got crucified by that one guy on Fox News who's only on Sundays, and he's my favorite guy on Fox News. And yes, I watch Fox News, and no, I'm not regurgitating Fox News propaganda. I watch Fox News so that I know when the trolls are regurgitating Fox News propaganda that they don't understand is associated with or even originates from Fox News. When the haters come at me with, do your own fucking real research, man, and then bullet point Fox News talking points, I got to be able to, with accuracy, tell them, blah, 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 this show, blah, 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 that show. You're just regurgitating whatever they're hacking from. So I digress. He crucified her on the lie that 4,000 terrorists had been arrested at the southern border. This is a flat-out lie. It's a conflation of a couple of different things that did happen during the last few years, and that's that people and I think I already talked about this on some recording somewhere or another, so forgive me for the redundancy, but someone who's like Dan Bernstein's name matching Daniel Bernstein wait, is that the same name? I'm going to pull you aside, make sure you're not this person on the no-fly list. That's not arresting a terrorist. And most of those things didn't happen at the southern border. They happened at airports. And she, had to swallow her pride and her self, her self-worth, her self-respect, and then regurgitate like the Trump talking points to get out of that moment. But it was brutal. So huzzah for Fox News. I don't know if it's me, but it seems like they're starting to hedge their bet against Trump and starting to allow an ever-increasing amount of dissent be voiced amongst their staff on the Fox News. But I digress. This wall, and why I think he doesn't really want it. Here's why. He's adamant he wants $5.6 billion. The wall, by even the most conservative, low-balling, low-budget estimates, is going to take more than $20 billion. So right there, we've got a big disconnect. B, he's demanding now and shutting the government down now. Like let's shut it down. Give me my $5.6 billion for the wall. But for 2 years, the GOP controlled both houses of Congress. And for 2 years, they could have passed any kind of budgetary measure, reform bill, or a good clean CR. They could have passed all kinds of things, including basic, simple funding. They would have given him $10 billion easy. But they didn't. 2 whole years went by. There was no obstructioning Democrats. The Democrats are being called obstructionists for those 2 years, but they didn't have enough votes to block anything. So how are you obstructing? They're not, right? That's just hyperbolic name calling to condition the salivating base audience. So 2 years, nothing happened. No legislation passed at all, while they had total control of government. All branches of government were just foaming at the mouth conservative, and they couldn't fund their wall. They couldn't figure out how to bring themselves to pay themselves the money. Now, there's a bunch of other lies here in the rhetoric that he spews around the wall that we could get lost in the weeds trying to debunk. And there's plenty of great fact-checking going on. I always encourage people to go and find a third party, a non-partisan, it's neither Democrat nor Republican, but like neutral fact-checking source. I don't think Snopes counts, but that's just my opinion. The latest level of insanity that this has reached is that he's teased out this threat for a day and a half, 2 days now, of somehow getting Homeland Security to either fund the building of the wall or direct the army to enact the actual physical building of the wall without congressional approval. And he was very bold and very Trumpian in his way of like, not going to do it, but I could and I might and I should and I would and I could, but I'm not going to. Could I? Did I? Wasn't I? And that's something worth noting here. It's something about Trump that I think Trump fans don't understand, is that he often says that he's done stuff and it is not yet done. A Trump tweet does not equal legislation. If Trump says the war is over, that doesn't mean anyone signed any peace treaties. He's just said those words or tweeted those words. So the pulling out from Syria, I don't know that a single soldier has gone home since he announced we were pulling out of Syria, right? And just recently, I think today or yesterday, Michael Bolton, the guy in Homeland Security, the guy in the military, not the guy who plays the saxophone. That was a bad joke. I apologize to both Boltons. But derailing myself. Mr. Bolton just announced that there may need to be some expectation adjustment about our immediate withdrawal from Syria, etc., etc., etc. Backpedal, backpedal, backpedal. Why? Maybe because maybe because Trump doesn't enact legislation or issue orders to the military via Twitter. That's not how it works. At best, you could consider Twitter a place for him to be spitballing and rough drafting some ideas out, right? Okay, there you can reasonably agree. It's a place for him to get the audience's vibe. It's a place for him to air out ideas and get a poll on them. But it isn't law just because he tweeted it. Just because he tweeted, we're pulling out of Syria and the danger's over, doesn't mean the danger's over and we're actually out of Syria, folks. Wake up. It's just Twitter. So, the escalation, the very strange, bizarre, extra-Trumpian, meta-Trumpian escalation of this demand, this childlike demand for such an oddly specific number, 5.6 billion, and that he's really willing to starve America to death to get it, and it's suddenly more important than anything else. He's making up emergency situations and talking about illegal immigration in terms of warfare, like we're under invasion. And this is not new, right? They've been doing, whoever loves to engender xenophobic fear of anyone from somewhere else that's slightly darker skinned than you, have been peddling this invasion talk for quite a long time. Deeply ironic, isn't it, for the descendants of illegal immigrants who arrived in a nation that didn't have any of their corruption, who then proceeded to rape, pillage, destroy, lie, cheat, murder, and steal the land out from under the people who lived here originally, to then get freaked the fuck out and want to build a wall around themselves to prevent anybody else from coming in here and enjoying this great, amazing, mind-blowing, debt slave open-air prison that we live in. It's an insanity. But I digress. Will he actually get Homeland Security and the military to fund and properly pay for the wall? Question mark. If yes, who gets the contract? Will it be Halliburton again? Or will it be some Trump subsidiary this time? I wonder. And if that doesn't happen, will he use the declaration of such an issuance of an emergency decree and a chief in, what's the kind of word I'm looking for? The threat of issuing an emergency situation and of ordering the military and Homeland Security to build this impossible wall, this ridiculous wall. Is that just the cover he needs in order to extract one last kick of extraction money? Because honestly, seriously, for 2 years, they could have funded this. They could have just written a thing. They could have let him write a thing and then pretend that they wrote it and let him sign it. And we could have actually be building a wall right now. I personally don't give two fucks if they build a wall or not. I think if they build a wall, it'll only serve to further enlighten the Trumptopian public of what a ridiculous direction this entire experiment is going in. But that's besides the point. The point is, I think he talks in 5 directions at once and points the blame in 18 other directions at once and somehow manages to get back on point and really, really drives the xenophobia into the heart of everyone, not because he's going to get anything done about illegal immigration. He hires illegal immigrants. Not only does he hire illegal immigrants, he then protects them from his own government so that they don't get arrested, so that they can keep working for him at his resorts. Okay? Let that sink in. Or help your Trump supporter friends get that to sink in with them. He's clearly not that mad at those gnarly, crazy, lazy bastards that are here to rape and pillage, because he's hiring them at his golf clubs and protecting them from ICE. That's like the greatest new height of hypocrisy that I've ever heard of. So all of those things taken into account, and here we are in this like game of chicken, which is driving his fan base wild, because a good plurality, if not majority, of his hardcore fan base is anti-government enough that they want all the buildings to be burnt to the ground and then everyone just go home and do your thing. I don't know how that would work out in the long run, but that's what they aspire to, some of them. A growing number of them, it seems. But that's ridiculous, right? And I don't think that the rest of America would ever let that happen. We'd go through another civil war, I think, before we actually let someone shut the government down indefinitely, to the point of indefinitely becoming permanently. So that's not my concern. My concern is, what if we're about to let him get away with successfully pulling a full Nixon? Right? Like, did Nixon ever go to jail? I don't remember right now. Mostly because I'm tired and I've been sick all week since New Year's, and I didn't take 5 minutes to look up whether or not Nixon went to jail, and I wasn't alive at the time. I don't remember Nixon going to jail. I don't remember that sentence in my head like, aha, comeuppance, we got justice. He got to ride off on a helicopter and declare himself not a crook. And then, what's his name? Gerald Ford pardoned him. I think that's why, remember when Trump went through his crazy pardon phase? See, he's smarter than people give him credit for, especially the haters on the left. Yo, Trump haters on the left. Your blind rage is preventing you from getting things done. Like, stop. Get over it. He's smarter than you think, and screaming insults at his fan base doesn't change their minds. Just like when they scream insults at you, it doesn't change yours. But maybe, just maybe, if we can rally around some facts, we can prevent the greatest scam of a president from getting away with what I'm starting to think is the most Occam's razor likely answer here. His opening gambit was the inaugural parade, right? Like, let's say fuck all of Russia. Those were all just whatever. They were doing their own thing. I'm talking about Trump. There really was no collusion, and maybe that's why he's so gleeful when he says that. Maybe he's in that sweet spot of amazing luck that he literally never did collude, but he also totally has a boner for the man and for Kim Jong-il and all the other guys that he bends over backwards to compliment and to be like, so that he really wants to achieve their level of corrupting what is supposed to be a democratic process, right? You know, Putin's supposedly a democratically elected Russian president. But I digress. What if there really is no collusion, but what he's been doing this whole time is creating a clusterfuck of fail as his facade to fleece, like the ultimate... I don't know what that alert was on my phone, but I apologize for its interruption. I thought I'd set this to silent when we got started here, but apparently I didn't. This might very well be the ultimate, like, kleptocracy move. And here's why. Like, we're investigating the inaugural parade. Just go back and watch the floats and the marches and the music and just watch the whole thing from beginning to end. and then compare that to the numbers of the amount of money raised and the amount of money paid out, et cetera, they fleeced us there. They scammed us, and they got away with funneling money to places that we now can't really catch up to. Hopefully Mueller has, but on the surface it looks like, oh wow, they really got away with that one. Now, who knows what else has happened like that in between, but now we're facing like the end run, right? Here we are. He's already campaigning for 2020. He's got nothing to lose and everything to win. If he loses and there's no indictments, then maybe he gets away with $5.6 billion because we gave it to him. And he then contracted some shell corporation, 3 shell corporations down to do the work, and he builds a shitty wall, right? And then, I don't know. It just seems he's demanding this $5.6 billion, and there's no explanation to how he's going to spend it. And it seems irrational to demand for it now. Maybe he doesn't even really want the $5.6 billion, right? Maybe he's cleaning house somewhere else, somehow else. But this all feels like the kind of shell game you play right at the end of exiting a complicated con that started to collapse on itself. That's the way I'm reading it. But I really was honing in on the thought of, like, what if he doesn't care about the wall, he doesn't care about immigrants, he just wants to get $5.6 billion and bounce and see if he can get away with it. And if he gets indicted or whatever, he could resign like Nixon, let Pence step up to the job, and then have Pence pardon him. I mean, if Pence isn't a puppet waiting for the puppet master to activate him, I don't know what else. That guy's just like a sleeper cell agent out in plain view, taking naps in the middle of meetings. Like, it doesn't matter if I pay attention or not. I'm just here. I just need to not die yet. I don't know. He's weird. I digress. This was pure conjecture, folks. I'm not saying I know anything. I don't have any. I'm not a private investigator. I'm a guy who's just paying attention to the world as best he can and trying not to fall prey to any of the nonsense and fake news out there, and sticking to the things that seem like verifiable facts. What do I know? Oh, I know this. Greed breeds more greed. And greed loves company.
And that is the latest madness from behind the orange wall. Thank you for listening to GMT, a special segment of the Almost Daily Zencast. Stay woke, Trumptopia. Stay woke.